What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back with another video, and today I'm going to be doing a preview for the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks game, which will take place for Week 7 this Sunday at Lumen Field. It's my first preview. I'm going to do more of these throughout the season, just give my takes on the upcoming game, give a prediction on it, and just some of the X's and O's and things I think may take place and some of the X factors for this game. Before I get into it, if you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. The like button is just a very free and easy way to help support my channel. So thank you so much to everybody that's done that, and hopefully you enjoy this game preview. So the Cardinals coming at 1-5. They'll be taking on the 3-2 Seattle Seahawks this Sunday. Seattle is anywhere from 7 to 8 point favorites in this game. It is absolutely a game the Seattle Seahawks on paper should win. And I'm not trying to be biased there. I'll tell you when I don't think the Seahawks are going to win. I'll tell you when I think they should, and they should win this game this Sunday. If they lose, this is the type of loss that would change a narrative on a season to me. This is the type of game that would make me have to take a step back and go, okay, what is happening here with the Seattle Seahawks? Last week's loss to me stunk because they had a chance to win, and anytime you got a chance to win a ball game and you don't, it stings. But the grand scheme of things, losing a road game to an AFC opponent that many people before the season had pegged as a Super Bowl contender or a Super Bowl favorite, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that loss. There were some things done wrong that game. I will defend Geno Smith, and you guys can agree, disagree. I don't think Geno was that bad in the game. I don't think he was good. I thought the red zone offense struggled. I think part of that was Geno, part of that was Waldron, part of that was the offensive line. I think part of the struggles in general, most of it was the offensive line. Geno deserves some blame. Like I said, he was not good, but I don't think Geno deserves to be benched. I think that talk is, I think it's ridiculous. I have no problem with Seattle in the offseason looking at quarterback, and they can get out of the Geno Smith deal. So I don't mind looking to the draft and getting a young quarterback in here. But if you think Drew Lock is going to be an upgrade, I think you're going to be in for a very rude awakening if that were to happen. So I think Geno's fine. It was just a tough game for the Seahawks. I think it was just a tough game. I think the Bengals deserve a lot of credit. I think Lou Anarumo, the Bengals D coordinator, dialed up a good game. Thought Shane Waldron didn't have his best moments. I think they overestimated, the Seahawks did, the return of Charles Cross. Now, Cross was fine. He wasn't great, but he held up okay. But they went away from a lot of the tight ends chipping and helping out, and ended up hurting the pass protection. Jake Curhan is already not a great pass protector at right tackle. And he sprained his ankle in the game. So you take a guy that's already more of a mauling run blocker, not a great pass blocker, not a great athlete, and you're forcing him now to play on a sprained ankle against Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, two very, very good two good pass rushers, and it didn't hold up too well. Seahawks been playing with fire a little bit. They haven't had Cross and Lucas, and they've had injuries on the offensive line. Now, it's not their fault they're playing with fire, but they've had to do it. Last week was the fourth game in a row, I think, with injuries on the offensive line. And I think it just finally caught up to them a little bit last week. They held up. I thought they did a great job against Detroit. Thought they held up okay against Carolina and the Giants, and I thought they struggled against the Bengals. And listen, despite all that, Seattle was one good pass away from winning that football game last Sunday. So despite all that, they were right there to win it. The good news is the Arizona Cardinals do not have a pass rush tandem as good as Hubbard and Hendrickson. And they don't have an offense led by Joe Burrow either. So I'm going to get into all of it. Let's start with the injuries first for the Seahawks. Actually, a pretty clean injury report for Seattle this Sunday. 5 guys are questionable: Zach Charbonnet, DK Metcalf, Phil Haynes, Evan Brown, and Jake Curhan. Charbonnet did not practice all week. Pete Carroll said, I think it was a hamstring. Didn't think it was anything serious. I don't know. It's tough for me when a guy doesn't practice all week to see him going on Sunday. Running back would certainly be more capable, I think, of, just kind of going in and playing. But I wouldn't be shocked if Charbonnet sits out on Sunday. I don't think that's a killer. I think you're fine with Walker, and I think DJ Dallas can hold his own enough. Long term, you want Charbonnet back, but I don't think it's the end of the world if he misses this game. DK Metcalf, a little concerned. Usually he hasn't practiced much all year with the rib injury, and Pete's pretty much said every Friday that DK's fine, he's going, don't worry about it. This was the first time Pete mentioned it wasn't just the ribs, it's his hip now, and that DK is a legitimate game time decision. Good news is DK did practice today in a limited capacity, so I think there is a decent chance DK goes on Sunday. maybe that's more limited than just a full go, but I would guess that DK plays, especially since he did practice a little bit today. I think that's a good sign. Phil Haynes, who played last week, banged up. He actually played left guard last week. He practiced on Wednesday and then didn't practice Thursday, Friday. That's a little concerning for me. I think Phil Haynes probably misses the game. Evan Brown, center, was limited today, which is good because he hadn't practiced all week. So I would say Evan Brown is closer to playing, and then Jake Curhan practice limited today. I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm not too worried about the right tackle spot because whether it's Jake Curhan, whether it's Jason Peters being brought up, whether it's Stone Forsythe, it's not a great situation. So that's like there's no matter what you're going with there at right tackle, I'm not going to be super optimistic. You're probably going to have to help chip with some tight ends regardless of who it is. I wouldn't mind seeing Jason Peters get a shot. Jason Peters is also 41 years old. Not sure he'd hold up. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Stone Forsythe make a start there just to see if maybe you get a little bit better play from Forsythe over Curhan. I think Forsythe probably the better pass protector, Curhan the better run blocker. Either way, like I said, I'm not worried about because I think all those guys are going to kind of end up giving you a mixed bag of results anyway. But I think Curhan will be able to go. Also, good news is Charles Cross full go. Damian Lewis is back at left guard. He doesn't have any designation for the game, so he'll be a full go. So the left side of your line is intact for the first time since week 1. That's huge. Damian Lewis might be one of the more underrated players on this offense. We talk about Cross and Lucas, and all the weapons. Damian Lewis is a good player, and if you're not sure, go back and watch the Jets game last year and what he did against Quentin Williams. He kind of dominated Quentin Williams. Damian Lewis is a good player. He's a mauler. Good to have him back. I think Evan Brown will play. Bradford has held up pretty well at right guard. Struggled a little bit in pass protection, but man, he can move some people. And then Curhan at right tackle. With what you have, that's probably about as good as you could ask for right now. It's certainly in better shape than it was 2 weeks ago. So I'm not upset with anything there. You'd love to get Abe Lucas back. He hasn't even come back to practice yet, though, so that's probably going to be another few weeks. Fingers crossed that can happen. For the Cardinals, injury-wise, Jalen Thompson, their safety, is going to miss his second straight game. I believe it was a hamstring he hurt against the Bengals. Didn't play last week. He will not play this week. Elijah Wilkinson, their left guard, will be out. So this is actually going to be the first game this year the Cardinals will not have their starting, or at least the same 5 offensive linemen intact, as Wilkinson will miss. James Conner is on IR. That's huge. Conner's been a good offensive weapon for them this year. Budda Baker might be back. He's questionable. He was not activated, but reinstated from IR, the PUP list, I guess, this week. So is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray will not play. Budda Baker's questionable. So, losing no Jalen Thompson's a big blow for the Cardinals, but getting Budda Baker back could definitely be a big impact there as well. So, and there's some other injuries. Cardinals are actually pretty banged up, probably more so than Seattle on the final injury report. So looking at the numbers here, you guys know I like to look at DVOA. DVOA it's not on Football Outsiders anymore. It is now on FTN Fantasy. So if you want to check it out, you head over to FTN Fantasy. I talked about DVOA in my last video where I said the Seahawks are passing the smell test. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it. So looking at DVOA ranks for the Seahawks, they rank 9th in offense, 16th in defense, 16th in defense, and 9th in special teams. I think that should give you a little pause that the offense is okay. Take a deep breath. I know some people were very upset last week. And Gino, and I get it. Like, Gino was not good last week. I'm not here to – my defense of Gino is not to come on here and tell you he played well last week. He did not. I know some people said, he didn't play well against the Giants either. The Giants game was very – and I said in my post game there, that's a hard game to judge offensive players on. The defense got a pick 6, a fumble that they returned to the 3. The offense had a couple drives. They went for a 4th down, didn't get it. They missed a field goal, and then they were up 21 points in the 4th quarter. So I'm not really going to judge the offensive performance from that game because I don't want to say they didn't need it. You always need it, but they got a big lead. They held it. Gino missed a couple drives because of injury. He came out in the 4th quarter because they were up big. It's just not a game I'm going to judge Gino Smith on. He was good against Carolina. He was great against Detroit. I actually thought he was fine against the Rams up until really the 4th quarter when he lost Charles Cross and Abe Lucas, and the Seahawks didn't have time to make adjustments to the game plan with those two going out mid-game. I think Geno is fine. DVOA reflects that the Seahawks offense has been good. The defense ranks 16th. I will say I feel like that's trending upwards for the Seahawks. A rough start. Honestly, outside of week 1, I think the defense has been fine. They did not play well against the Rams. I actually don't think they were that bad against Detroit, and they did force 2 turnovers. Detroit ate them up. I'm not saying Detroit didn't have a good offensive game, but that's kind of what Detroit does. Detroit's a really good offense. Thought they played fine against Carolina. Dalton threw for 300 yards on 60 pass attempts. Yeah, you throw the ball 60 times, you're going to get a lot of yards. Dominated the Giants. Don't care that the Giants are a bad offense. 11 sacks and 3 turnovers is impressive no matter who you're playing. And then we all know they played great against the Bengals. The first 2 drives, even the drives where the Bengals scored the 2 touchdowns, it was very dink and dunk. It was like 3, 4, 5 yards. There was a 4th down penalty on Seattle that kept the drive going. So even on the touchdown drives, I don't think they were awful. And then they held the Bengals off the board the rest of the way. Even the field goal the Bengals got was off a turnover, and they didn't even get a yard on the possession. So I think the Seahawks defense is trending in the right direction. I'll talk about that a little bit. Special teams has been fine. For Arizona, they actually ranked 12th offensively by DVOA. While Seattle's defense is trending up, I do think Arizona's offense is trending down a little bit, and I'll talk about that. They're 31st on defense DVOA-wise, so they've struggled defensively, and they're 12th on special teams. So while special teams is definitely not the most important, sometimes you can look for things there where you might have an advantage. I haven't dove into the Cardinals special teams, but it looks like they've been holding their own there on special teams as well. So first, let's talk about the Cardinals offense. And their offensive coordinator is Drew Petzing, former Browns quarterback coach. I actually think he's done a really good job. I do. And listen, to have an offense that's ranked 12th in DVOA with Josh Dobbs and some of what they have to work with is impressive. And I think Josh Dobbs has actually looked pretty good. I think Josh Dobbs has shown he is a capable backup quarterback in this league. Like, he's going to have a job. Obviously, when Kyler Murray comes back, Kyler Murray is the starting quarterback there. But I think Dobbs has held his own. I will say why I think that offense might be trending down. I thought James Conner was a huge part of that offense early on. He's out. They've been going with Keaton Ingram. I think that's how you say it. And then Damian Williams played last week. Neither did anything against the Rams. Seattle's run defense has been top 5, might be number 1 at this point in the NFL. I do not expect the Cardinals to have much success on the ground. Dobbs was their leading rusher last week. I do think his mobility can present some issues. But so far, Seattle's played, and I know Burrow might have been a little banged up, but his mobility didn't seem to give him too much problems. Daniel Jones' mobility didn't seem to give them too much problems. Cardinals' offensive line is better than the Giants' offensive line for sure. So I don't know. It might not be an issue. I do think Dobbs can make some plays with his legs, but if you're not being able to establish any type of run game and you're struggling passing the ball, I don't think it'll necessarily matter. Now, as much as I praise Josh Dobbs, and like I said, I think he's been solid. Last couple games, he has dropped off a little bit. Sub 50% completion percentage last 2 games, 401 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, and 2 lost fumbles. So 2 touchdowns and 5 turnovers last 2 games for Josh Dobbs. Looks like he is starting to come back down to earth a little bit. Cardinals got off to a real nice start. They played pretty well in Washington week 1. Probably should have beaten the Giants week 2. Blew it in the second half. They beat Dallas. But then they kind of got beat up by the Niners. They actually played pretty tough. I watched that game. I don't think they played that bad. I think the Niners' talent just came through. And they played well for the Bengals. They held up a little bit. Bengals pulled away in the second half. Rams did the same thing. If you watched Hawk Bloggers podcast this week, him and Jeff Simmons did their game preview. I just want to give credit because I'm going to use a line that Jeff Simmons said, so I just want to credit him. He called the Cardinals kind of a 30-minute team, and it wasn't a diss. His point was they play hard. Jonathan Gannon has that team playing hard, but in the second half, it just seems the talent takes over and they kind of drop off. Probably kind of how I see this game going. I think they are playing hard, and it's credit to Jonathan Gannon. Coming into the year, he kind of looked like a joke with some of the stuff we saw, the quotes, but they're playing tough for him, and they deserve credit for that. But there is a talent deficiency on that team, and like I said, it looks like Dobbs is coming back down to earth. Clayton Tune, is that the rookie quarterback they have? There's been some calls for him to play. which I kind of get. You might as well see what you've got there. Would be curious if the Cardinals get off to a really bad start here, if you do see Tune coming. And then obviously Kyler Murray will be back here probably in the next few weeks. Now, with that said, with James Conner being out, there are some weapons the Cardinals do have. Hollywood Brown has had a nice season, the former Raven receiver. Rondale Moore hasn't really gone off yet this year, but he's a guy, I think Petzing's done a much better job than Cliff Kingsbury, at finding ways to get Rondale Moore the ball. And the Seahawks have always kind of had issues with those guys. Tutu Atwell has been giving the Seahawks fits. Kind of the same mold type player. You still got Zach Ertz, and Michael Wilson's had a nice year so far at wide receiver. So there are some guys that can beat you. But Seattle's secondary, the last few weeks has looked like one of the best secondaries in the league. And that shouldn't be surprising. The talent is there for the Seahawks to be an elite secondary. And I think we may finally be seeing that. If you look at, like I said, if you look at the talent, you've got Devin Witherspoon, who has been ridiculously good. Tariq Woolen, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams has looked fantastic since coming back. Julian Love, who can kind of play nickel, third safety. And shout out to Trey Brown. How good has Trey Brown been? In fact, I would argue that Trey Brown has outplayed Tariq Woolen so far this season. That's not a knock on Woolen. But Seattle's secondary has really shined this year. So the hope here, if you're a Seahawks fan, yeah, that's some weapons. Hollywood Brown's decent. Ertz is a veteran, a veteran. I don't know how well he's still moving. And Moore can be tricky, but with what you have in the secondary and the speed at linebacker, you should be able to shut down that offense. This is going to be a really good test for the Seahawks. And I don't mean that in terms of a test like you're going up against Mahomes and company, and boy, good test. If this defense is going to take the next step and go from like, hey, they've looked pretty good, are they fooling us, are they legit? This is a game I want to see some domination. I want to see the defense go out there and really shut this offense down and kind of suffocate them. Get after Dobbs, force a couple turnovers. Running game non-existent for Arizona. And those weapons, if you are for real, should not be enough to beat you. Not saying that's necessarily going to happen, but this is a game where I really want to see a pretty suffocating performance from the Seahawks defense. Defensively, the Cardinals have struggled, 31st in DVOA. Secondary is pretty weak. I think the effort is there to stop the run, and they've got some pass rushers that have performed. Gardeck has 4 sacks off the edge this year. That might be someone you want to help chip if he's going up against Jay Curhan. Demukeji, I think I said that correctly, the former 6th round pick, he has 3.5 sacks. David Collins has 2.5 sacks. Kaiser White has 2 sacks. So there are some guys that can get after you a little bit. Zayvon Collins, a good player. And there's been good effort on that defense. So I think the Cardinals defense will play hard. Wouldn't shock me if Seattle's offense starts a little slow in this game, and then maybe picks it up a little bit in the second half. We'll see what the injury status is with DK. I would love to see Seattle really get the ground game going. They've had some decent moments on the ground, but they have not had a dominating rushing performance yet. Now, Charbonnet being out sucks, and that can hurt that. But I think with Kenneth Walker and DJ Dallas, I think both them are more than capable. And this is a game to me that I want to see. I want to see the running game get going and take a little bit of that pressure off Geno Smith. I think a lot's on Geno's plate. I think for the first time as Seahawks quarterback, he felt a little heat last week, and rightfully so. He didn't play well. Now, I'm certain, like I said, I'm not in the bench Geno camp at all. But yeah, I think last year, everyone's expectations were so low that it was just kind of like, yeah, this is cool. Geno's been a nice story. Now we want that next step. Very similar to the Mariners this year, right? How it's like, it was fairy tale last year getting the playoffs. Well, now you got to go a step forward. And I think fans are just a little hesitant there. So if you can get that running game going, take a little pressure off Geno, let some of these maulers on the O-line get going. Curhan's strength is run blocking. Bradford's strength is run blocking. Damian Lewis's strength is run blocking. Let those guys eat. Let them eat. Get the run game going and keep the defense fresh. So I'm not saying you don't pass the football, but I would love to see the run game get going. I want the Seahawks to get back into those multiple tight end sets. I think that's really their strength when they run out of that sort of, I guess you'd call it the 12 personnel. Would that be is it 11 or 12 personnel? I think it's 12 personnel. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. What other? The multiple tight end sets, because I really think it helps block. You have Will Dissly, you can help chip, and even Fant and Parkinson a little bit. And it just seems like the Seahawks are at their best when they get their tight ends out there and get going. It can help create some separation for other players as well. I think last week I talked about having Charles Cross back and not having the tight ends chip as much. They went more three wide, and it did get JSN involved. JSN had his best game. And if Geno would have found him on that pass in the fourth quarter where he was wide open, JSN ends up with 5 catches for almost 100 yards. So I was impressed with that. And that's a good sign, but the team needs to get back to their strengths. I think that is with the multiple tight ends. Listen, JSN's there, fine. I'm not saying sit JSN or anything. And if DK's out, we may see more JSN. But I think that's where the Seahawks are at their strength. This should be a defense that, even with some of the injuries on the O-line, I think Curhan and Bradford can hold up okay. Getting Lewis back is nice. Even if they're not 100%, I think they should be all right against this Arizona defense. And most importantly, I expect this defense to have a big game. I want to see a suffocating defensive performance from the Seahawks. And I think they can. And truthfully, I think they will. I think this is going to be a very big breakout game for this defense at home in Lumen Field in front of their fans. I think the fans are going to see for the first time this defense might be for real. We're even seeing the pass rush come alive a little bit. They're getting nice contributions. Draymond Jones is coming on. Jaron Reed continues to be an anomaly. I don't know how he's turned into the player he has, but credit to Clint Hurt for getting the most out of him. And Clint Hurt's an old D-line coach, so not super shocking there. Bobby Wagner's been a welcome sight back. Jordan Brooks looks healthy. Boye Maffe's really taken a step forward this year. Mario Edwards has been that classic cheap free agent sign. The Seahawks always seem to have one a year that does a really good job, and Mario Edwards appears to be that guy this year. So I think the defense can have suffocating performance. I want to see the offense get the run game going. I think they will, and I think they can. Keep Geno protected. Offensive line has to play better. I think they will, and hopefully DK is good to go as well. Score prediction for this one, I'm going to say 27-6. And I know that may be a little on the optimistic side, and maybe that comes back to bite me a little bit. I'm expecting a big performance from this defense. I really am. I am expecting them to show up in this game. Listen, I don't mean that any disrespect towards the Arizona Cardinals. If you're a Cardinals fan, I don't. I actually like what Gannon's doing there. I think there's a clear vision. I think Petzing's done a nice job. I think it's just a talent deficiency. And I think if the defense can have suffocating performance, I think the offense in the second half maybe get some short fields, can kind of pull away. I wouldn't be shocked if this game is something like, 10-3 at halftime, and you're kind of going, come on. Defense gets a big turnover in the second half, and the offense kind of gets it clicking. So I see a game going very similar to that. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Give me your prediction for the game. I'm doing a contest this week for channel members, so think about becoming a member. And then you can check out in my community tab the contest and everything. There'll be a giveaway for that. So think about becoming a channel member, and remember to like and subscribe. And I will see you guys all. Actually, I'll see you tomorrow for the Coyotes post game. Then I'll see you Sunday for the Seahawks post game. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and go Hawks. Peace.